the cloud. Hi, everybody. This is Beth Rusky. It is noon on Friday, and we are recording our Friday Facebook Live. Noon in Chicago in the USA, so wherever you are, it might be a different time. We are Tiara International, and with me today are my colleagues and partners from all over. And I'm going to have you just say hello and introduce yourself quickly. Francisca?
Hi, I am Francisca, and I'm in the Netherlands. And it's actually past 7 here.
Thank you. Peg, how about you?
Yes. Hi, I'm Peg Rowe, and I am in the northern suburbs of Chicago, so in the USA.
Terrific. Andrea?
Yes, I am Andrea Henning, and I am also from the Netherlands, but the other part of the Netherlands. But it's still within 1 hour and a half. We could meet.
And it's a little hot in the Netherlands this week. It's how many degrees Celsius?
It's about 39. It's ticking for 40, and our meters, they just go crazy.
And the brain stops work, I see.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Through the roof. That was what I wanted to say.
Yes.
Through the roof. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We are going to have a conversation about sources of inspiration for us, and we're specifically talking about books or movies or things that we just personally find inspiring right now. And so, at any point in life, there's different things that pop up, but this is a moment in time, a slice of time. So if you're seeing this video on YouTube or you're watching it after the fact, this is something that we do every Friday. This is our Facebook Live conversation. And we take a topic that we were just curious about or that, someone brought up on our partner meeting, and we turned it into a dialogue on Friday to expand it for everybody else. And Tiara International is a leadership development company. We specialize in helping women get into a leadership pipeline in organizations and advance through it. And we also help the women themselves get ready for the next step in their own leadership. And it doesn't have to be in a company. We call, for us, every woman is a leader because she's the one in charge and leading her life. So thanks for joining us. That's all we're going to say about us. Now we're going to talk about inspiration and sources that inspire us. So, Andrea, you probably have the most, so you're going to go last.
I just loved it. Before we went on to this dialogue, we had a little conversation about the books piling next to our beds, and I loved it, Peg, when you said mine falls over and then I will die. I mean, I also have this pile next to my bed that I just only come around starting to read now because it's vacation time. And the one that I haven't read yet, but it ties very much into my inspiration, is the new book by Jill Soloway, and it's called She Wants It. I don't know if you have heard of it, but it is the book that I came across because I was following Hannah Gadsby, and Hannah Gadsby is from Australia, and she has become famous with her show Nanette. So if you haven't seen Nanette on Netflix yet, please go do it. And what is so inspirational? Oh, so now the recording has stopped. I don't know. It's still recording here, I think. So what I wanted to say about Nanette is that it's such an intelligent story. It's such a way that she has found to talk about the untold, about the unimaginable, without adding to the hatred that's already there. So by the inspiration of this one-man show, I followed her interviews later because I was curious how she would do afterwards. And I found out that she's now dating Jill Soloway, and Jill Soloway and she were in a interview together, and just her new book came out, and how she introduced it. It was also inspiring, and it has the underscore, the desire, power, and toppling the patriarchy. So I can tell you more about how to do that on our next Facebook Live.
Oh, golly.
That's great. Awesome. Peg, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm going to give a little preamble for mine. The beginning of this year, when we put our plans together, I created a guideline that said essentially to notice and earmark moments of joy. And the idea behind that was that I'm clear that I experience and have the opportunity to notice joy all the time, and it's a matter of me paying attention and being present to it. So I really wanted this guideline that would have me bringing joy regularly into my life, not because I was having to go out and make joyful things happen, but because I was actually paying attention to the joyful things that were already there. So that's kind of the journey I've been on this year. And then I happened to come up with and find this book called Joyful that I have loved. I'm not all the way through it yet, but it's written by a woman by the name of Ingrid Patel Lee. And she's an industrial designer, but she's been on a very similar journey, and like she's researched this puppy. So she's telling you all about what joy is all about. But it was really fascinating because her story begins with the end of her first year of design school, and you had to come prepared to show this group of esteemed professors all the work you had done for the year. So you would have this table and everything was laid out in front of you. And it was a pretty intimidating situation at the end of that year. So she had everything laid out in front of her, and the professors come up and they're very serious and, you know, very focused on looking at everything that she's got. And finally the first one speaks and he said, "When I look at what you've created, I have a feeling of joy." And in her mind, she's like, I came to design school to solve problems. Like I was expecting sustainability or this is well produced. And so I wasn't sure what to do with that. But what it had her get into the inquiry about was how can tangible things create the intangible feeling of joy? And so she's been on this really interesting exploration. So her definition of joy is that joy is the intense momentary experience of positive emotion. As distinguished from happiness, which is about a state of being, this is more about those intense moments that all of a sudden you're just joyful. It makes you smile. It makes you laugh. If you're a kid, it makes you jump up and down. So it's those like moments in your life. So I thought, wow, she's actually using language similar to what I was looking for in terms of the moment of joy experience. So I'll share a little bit. Like I said, I haven't finished the book, but a little bit about it, which I think has been fascinating. So if you think about things that bring us joy, and she cites a lot of examples throughout it. So she has it all organized in these various topics like energy, and energy can be often about color and our experience of color. But she cites these things like that are universal to almost everybody. Almost everybody has a similar shared experience of joy when they see bubbles, sunsets, rainbows, fireworks, confetti, a bunch of balloons, sparkling wine, bubbles, sunlight, a sunny day, a sunlit room. All of these things tend to have this sort of universal impact where we all experience joy at the same time. So that's what led her into doing the research that she's done, which is all about understanding like, well, what are those elements that bring us joy? And so she's focused on things like color. She calls it the aesthetics of joy. It's how we aesthetically experience the world around us and the things that then stimulate joy. So a couple of examples are things like round shapes are more joyful to us than angular shapes. And they've actually done MRIs where if they show someone angular shapes in an MRI, it stimulates that part of the amygdala which has fear. And if you show round shapes, it doesn't do that. So I thought that was really fascinating. Abundance. So this whole idea of an accumulation of lots of small things that are the same, like confetti, like a single piece of paper, a little single piece of paper, a confetto, which is one. I had no idea. It's like you pick that up and you throw it away. But confetti will bring joy. And then she shared a story about someone who has some business in New York, and they ship things, and they love confetti. So they literally have a drawer of confetti, and when they ship something, they put confetti in it because it brings joy. But now they've had to put stickers on the outside that say caution, warning, confetti inside. And what that reminded me of was years and years ago, I sent cards to my nieces in California for like Halloween, and I put confetti in them. And my brother-in-law called me and said, the girls love the cards with confetti. Thanks a lot. I have a lot to clean up. So I was like, oh, sorry, Mark. But he's like the most fun-loving guy I know. So he was just giving me a hard time. But I thought, okay, that warning about confetti inside is probably a really good thing. The other thing that I would just say, and then I can be done, is that she observes that kids and children find joy naturally in their life. They just, it's like they don't. And Beth's got two nephews who are young. They're what, 2 years old now? Three, yeah. And like she's always sharing these experiences with them where they'll experience like water coming out of a water hose and spraying them. And like, oh my gosh, like all of the giggles and the joy that go with that. And somehow as we get to be adults, all of those things can feel childish and we feel silly experiencing them. And her urge is like, abandon that. Like, go ahead, feel the joy, experience the joy, because it's there naturally for all of us to experience, and just be willing to fully express our delight. So I love the book so far. I don't necessarily say everybody should go out and read it. It's just my particular interest right now is really understanding how to have joy be an ongoing part of my life. So I'm intrigued by it. But I love the premise and the thoughts that she shared.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. I've learned a lot by this conversation pack. The confetto. Oh.
Yes, who knew? She does have a blog she writes, and then I just literally today got a 7-page guide that I downloaded that was like 50 ways to experience joy, like simple things like, go out for a run in the park, that kind of thing. So I will post on Facebook the TED Talk that she did, as well as the name of the book and her blog, so that anybody who's interested in learning more can do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Francisca.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can feel the joy bubbling up from your sharing. I'm glad you are posting the resources on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking what gives me joy is if I manage to understand how things work. And that's to your point, what are you inspired by now? Right at this time, I am inspired by the question about time, and the resource I am looking into. It's a couple of resources. It's not a particular book, but different resources about the old Maya Tzolk'in calendar, which is different from our well-known Gregorian calendar that we normally use. And I was intrigued by the fact that apparently yesterday we had, in the philosophy of the Maya Tzolk'in, we had a day outside of time. So I thought, how interesting. And yes, I thought, let me cherish that day. Let me see if it's not going to pass. It did pass. Yeah. But apart from a day out of time, there is many people have an ongoing I have an ongoing challenge with time. I'm thinking, there's 24 hours in a day and night, and there's so much I want to accomplish, how I'm going to make my choices, and so forth and so forth. But their perception of time is more related to the energy. So their perception of time, their calendar, the Tolkien calendar, is tuned into nature. It's tuned into the moon, especially. So it's a 30-moon calendar. And if you add up 30 moons and you compare it with the 365 days we have in a year, well, there's one day that is left over, and that's always on the 25th of July. So if you missed yesterday as a day outside of the time, the next one is going to be the next year the same time. And what I love about their perspective of time is that in their philosophy, time can repeat itself, and you can sort of travel forth and back in time, because it equals energy, and a certain constellation of energy or feeling of energy, or however you want to determine that, comes back at regular intervals. So they look at energy, time moving cyclic, moving in a spiral. And well, the deeper you go into the details, the more complex information you find, because they have cycles inside cycles. So it can become very complicated, but it can also be, well, the more distance you take, the more easier it is to understand. And I learned that we have just completed, until not yesterday, the day before, yesterday we completed a cycle of 13 years. And we are now moving into a new cycle of 13 years with a different quality of energy. And we're moving from the red to the white. I'm sorry, I cannot share exactly what it is about, but it is said to move much more to an energy where we can expect things to happen for us, as long as we are in line with the integrity and the nature of our true selves, who we are being. So this is actually what I'm looking into today. And yesterday was a day like look back to the past 13 years and see, what is there to be appreciated, what maybe lessons learned. And for today, it's to look forward to the next 13 years. And play, visualize, dream what you want to happen. And this is still on my to-do list after the Facebook Live today. So, and that's still, I still need time today.
Francisca, are you saying 30 years or 1-3?
1-3. 1-3. Yes, 1-3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they have that's a wave of 13 years, and they have other waves inside of that. And I normally work with their wave of 13 days, and every day carries a certain energy and a certain focus, and it helps understand why things happen, what to do, what not to do. And of course, it's not like it's not a magic stick. It's not really how do you say voorspellen, predicting exactly, not at all. But there is a part of that information that helps understanding, and that is helpful for accepting the factual situation of things. So I really love it. I'm really playing into that. Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And clearly, from a fact-finding perspective, that is right up your alley.
Was it too long?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it thrills you to have all that information coming at you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The research.
Yeah. And I get always the short version when it's like the day of yesterday I would have missed. So I am open to these kind of informations, and that's that's what Francisca provides.
So that we do not have to read all the books.
I had a great day out of
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Cliff notes. Cliff notes
And
work.
how about you, Beth?
I think a couple things. Yeah. I actually read this book a while ago. It's called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. Mm-hmm. And I love his daily inspiration messages, and they're usually spot on, and they're just what you want to hear when you need to hear it, that type of messaging. So it was a really good connection. I think for me, I've had conversations with God, and call it whatever you want. I mean, if it's not God, it's a source or whatever, but with some type of higher power or higher being. And I've had those conversations, which have, I probably have had a lot in my life, but I wasn't present to them. But the few times in the last 5 or 6 years when I actually was alert and had that conversation, the first time it happened, we happened to be in Jordan, and I remember looking around like, who's standing behind me? Like, I thought there was somebody else on the cliff. We were watching the sunset. I happened to be I thought I was sitting in a place by myself, and I heard this behind me, and I was like, could you, and I was a little annoyed. I'm like, could you find your own place to watch the sunset? And then I realized there's nobody there. Okay. Yeah, you're creating the sunset. Oh, okay. I got it. You're letting me watch your sunset. But, and people can think whatever they want to think about that, but I've come to actually trust that in myself. And it's important that I get quiet and do that so that I can hear the messages, because they are answers to the questions I'm asking. And I like that. And lately, it's funny because the message, I haven't had conversations with God. Instead, I've had conversations through Neil Donald Walsh, which has been hilarious. And of course, you, my lovely partners, have said to me, so what, why do you need an intermediary? Just cut Neil out and go to God,
Yeah.
And, but it's funny because I've just been and I believe that God was saying, look, I'm sending you messages and you're just not letting them in. So I'm going to try another path. Maybe you'll listen to Neil.
And apparently that's working.
And it did work, so it's just kind of funny. So, and recently, and so I picked up the book again, but this is, thick and lots of small print. And unfortunately, I'm not somebody who likes a lot of, depth like Francisca does. But he had a webinar recently. And so it was just an audio, a 90-minute or 60-minute audio. And I listened to it. And basically, I took 3 things from it, which were really great. And it was, remember who you are. Just remember who you are at your source, at your core. And so you talk, Peg, about the joy of those 3-year-olds. Like,
right. Yeah.
Like that's who we all really are,
Exactly right.
If we can peel the crap that we've added back, that's it. Mm-hmm. And I think the second thing he said was, be clear about your wanting or your desires or what you're actually looking at for your life. Like, be clear about that. Like, what is it that you want, to actually have in your life? And then the third thing I heard was believe. So it's not passive, but it's about, you got to do the work. It's easy to forget or you lose yourself in any situation over time, momentarily. Doesn't matter. We can just lose ourselves. So I really do love that. And so it was a nice reminder for some of the basic things that I do try to get present to regularly. The other book, and I did read it a long time ago, but it's come up a lot in the last 2 weeks, is the book Quiet by Susan Cain. And I've mentioned that book many, many times.
Yeah.
And it isn't like, oh, go and get quiet. It's about introverts. And it's about making sure that, I know I'm an extrovert. That's, my default, energy. And introverts, you have to make space for them in your life. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, us extroverts, if we're left unchecked, we just crowd them out. We push them out, or we make it so hard to be around us that they choose to opt out. And I have found her book to be extraordinary. She too does a lot of research and had a lot of statistics in there. And if truth be told, my world is surrounded by introverts. I probably have 75% introverts, 25% extroverts. And maybe that's the world. I don't know. Again, Francisca, because I'm not a fact finder, I would just make it. But maybe the world can't take too many more extroverts. Maybe it's a 2-to-1 ratio for a reason. So anyway, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, I do really like that book.
That's good. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So what does all this inspiration mean for you? What is it that what do you try? How do you try to use it? How do you try to harness it? Any wisdom you want to share before we leave our call?
Yes, this extrovert wants to share it. No, it's like, it's interesting that in the summer period, when actually we can slow down a little bit more, let alone the weather slows me down these last days. So there comes some space to actually explore what catches our interest. So it's not a big thing. And I just heard another podcast of Super Soul Sunday with Elizabeth Gilbert, where she actually talks about that. It's the quiet voice inside of yourself that sparks, that talks to what you can be inspired by, and then puts you on this journey of exploration. And then afterwards, I can always see that the journey that I've taken into exploring has actually something there for me. So whether it's something that I need moving forward, or something that shows me the way into my future, it's never without meaning. But I'm very much aware that I need to slow down enough to pick it up, what it is, and also the luxury of, oh, this is interesting. Look at that, and this brings you to the next and to the next. You need a day outside of the time, so otherwise we are so like first thing, second thing. So you need some creative space to actually listen to these little voices of inspiration and follow your curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mm-hmm. How about you, Francisca? Anything?
Yeah. Yes. When I listen to you, Andrea, and I think I am an introvert, and I am someone who loves that quiet space within. So I look for it as often as possible. And I also take whatever information I read or get. I always check what does it mirror in me? What does it want to show me? And for me, it works right the other way around. Like it brings me into emotion. So, for instance, looking into the Tzolk'in energy and understanding, like, oh, this is the kind of energy that this day carries. I can surf it on it or not. And when then the choice is easy. I want to surf on it. So I say, okay, what does it mean? And it helps me into action. So that's interesting that it's, a variation to that.
Yeah. Peg, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, this exploration for me around joy this year has been very intentional, because it's been a desire to actually source inspiration daily, as opposed to waiting for like the big like lightning strikes inspiration, but really to be more present to those moments of joy, and that collection of those moments of joy really provide, that increased level of inspiration. So I've been kind of taking a reverse perspective of not even necessarily carving space and time out for it, but just being more observant and more present, and seeing where that joy and therefore inspiration already are in my life. And I think that's really served me well this year. I really feel like that's made a shift for me personally.
Yeah. I think I'm somewhere in between, to say, in terms of, trying to make more time for the quiet, but also recognizing the moments along the way. So that's been an intention to do both, so that it does feel both. I am tapping into the joy of our little ones around us.
Yeah.
One of my sisters just sent me a picture this morning of her granddaughter, and her granddaughter woke up and she put her out on the deck, and they were blowing bubbles, and there's this gorgeous face of Carson just excited, and all these bubbles in front of her. So my advice to everyone listening to this recording, if you've made it this far, is to say, go get or make some bubbles.
Bubbles.
Go make
are a source of joy. Yes, they are. Yeah. And if you can't make bubbles, then drink your bubbles.
Exactly. Finding inspiration anywhere. That's, I think, the punchline here. Yep. The inspiration is always there if we're open to it, if we're aware of it, if we're looking for it, and if we're expecting it.
Yeah.
The other thing, be what you want to put into the world. So if you're looking for joy, obviously be joyful. If you're looking for kindness, be kind. If you're looking for wisdom, be wise. If you're looking for love, be loving. So be whatever it is that you're trying to source from the world. Yeah. go ahead and experiment with being that first. So thank you, you guys, you ladies, for joining us. And also, if you've liked this, please make sure you've registered or you've signed in as a someone on our website. It's tiaraleadership.com. We do these conversations weekly. They're posted on YouTube. You can see us on Facebook. We have a Tiara Resource Circle that is for women only, but it's women around the world who tap in once a month, have a conversation, do some work on their own life, and then stay in community and stay in contact. So if that sounds like something you'd like to learn more about, go to our website. You'll find it there. Thank you, everybody. Have an awesome weekend. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.